Welcome to Mike's METS podcast. I'm your host, Mike Pisciotta, and we're going to do something a little bit different, which is an interview with my brother, Matt. We recorded this on Sunday afternoon, or no, sorry, Sunday evening, and this was following the Mets loss to the New York Yankees, which was a bummer, but coming off of two great wins against the Yankees before that, definitely felt great. So kind of took the sting off that final Game 3 loss, but we were feeling pretty good about it, and so we had made the plan to record that interview a while back, and we finally had a chance to do it. Finally, the technology did not fail me for once, and I was very happy to do it. My brother is, I kind of give him credit for, not even kind of give him credit, I give him a lot of credit for being the one who has introduced me to baseball probably throughout my entire life, probably even more so than my dad. Even though my dad really kind of introduced me and my brother to the Mets, my brother was the one who kind of shepherded me through baseball during like my teenage years and kind of taught me about stats and looking at other things in baseball besides just home runs and RBIs and stuff like that. It was on base percentage and figuring out how to play fantasy baseball and all these things. So he's been kind of shepherding me along the way in my baseball journey since I was a kid, and we talk about the Mets on like a daily basis, pretty much. We will complain. We'll talk endlessly about trade ideas and who needs to get sent down and all this stuff. And finally, it felt like a good time to put it on a podcast and talk about it, and we got a lot of mileage out of it. I was very pleased at how much we got out of it, and so big shout out to my brother Matt, who came on and was a fully willing participant and was able to help me through this very important interview with my first guest on the podcast. So I really enjoyed it. I hope everyone likes it as well. And Matt, if you're watching, and I'm sure you are, thank you very much. And I really do appreciate everything that you do for me. Hey, Matt, thanks for joining the podcast for the first time.
Thanks for having me.
So, Mets won 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. I texted you on Saturday and said, are we back? Are we officially back? Do you think so now?
I think so. I mean, I think the number one thing I saw that was really encouraging was that they actually fought in these games. Like throughout the 3-week bad stretch, every time they got behind or, lost a lead of any kind, the bats immediately went silent. Here, even today, they were down 5-0. They very easily could have said, let's just pack it in. We weren't even trying to win this game. But, they fought all the way to the end. They didn't get it, but that makes me think they're back. The offense really looks healthier than it has in a while. And look, there's other structural problems here that I think it wasn't just a bad stretch. I think it was a bunch of structural problems kind of rearing their head at the same time. The pitching staff is a real problem. There's one guy I trust in the bullpen, and his name is Edwin Diaz, and he's the closer. I don't trust anyone else in the bullpen. Reed Garrett is becoming Reed Garrett again.
Yeah.
Ryan Stanek, I cannot stand Ryan Stanek.
They can only bring him in garbage time now. That's the problem.
I've never seen a dude, he literally, I don't want to get off topic here, but literally all he does is throw a straight-ass fastball with zero secondary stuff. So every count, he gets ahead and can't put anyone away because his fastball is straight, and they just keep fouling it off until eventually he makes a mistake and he gets clobbered.
Yeah, it's a problem. They definitely need some help there from really any kind of resource at this point. But I'm looking at the trade deadline and targeting some guys who I think might be helpful, and we'll get into that a little bit. But so, just first off, which player or players do you think have surprised you the most with their performance so far this year?
In a positive or negative way?
Either one.
Edwin Diaz, I've been really, really impressed with. Diaz is back to Diaz of 2 years ago. he really looks like a shutdown closer again. I wasn't sure if he was ever going to get back to that after the knee injury. Disappointing, at least thus far, is super disappointed in Francisco Alvarez. I thought Alvarez was going to come in and have a huge year, and obviously, he had really badly timed injuries. He's obviously a guy who's a little susceptible to getting his head, not on straight completely. Hopefully he's getting his stuff together in AAA, and he'll come back and kind of, back with the old swing, hopefully, and be able to, kind of actually be a useful offensive force. And the other one is Vientos.
Yeah.
I had really high hopes for Vientos. Now, there were a lot of people saying, there's a lot of things not to like in his advanced metrics, and a lot of those have kind of come home. He's another guy who, is all confidence driven, I think. He really never got in a slump last year. He kind of just was very, very steady, and he hasn't been able to, get out of it. And, I don't really fault him for him looking like he's no idea what he's doing right now, because he came back off a quick rehab and, clearly was trying to get back.
He's just confounding to me at how far he is. He's done a complete 180 from what he was doing last year, and you look at his performance in the postseason last year. I mean, what you said about his confidence, he came into that with just oh yeah, sure, I'm just gonna hit in my first postseason appearance ever, and he was their best hitter, outside of Lindor. He really came through them repeatedly over and over again, and I'm just shocked by how lost he looks. And I agree. I think it's a confidence thing for him. I think if he can figure that part out, then he'll be in better shape.
Yeah, the problem is though that even if he figures it out, the part that people don't want to say is that he is a one-dimensional player.
Yeah.
Even if everything is right, he's a home run hitter. He'd be a really, really useful DH if he was, hitting. Yeah. But there's no. This is going to sound like a hot take, but there's no world in which Brett Baty isn't a better baseball player than Mark Vientos. He just is.
Oh yeah, no, that's I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think everyone views him as a better all-around player. Vientos probably a better hitter, but it's just that Baty's having more success right now, which isn't really hard.
I don't even know if he's a better hitter. If Brett Baty actually were to become, what Brett Baty could be, I think he's, a 280 hitter who could hit, up high 20s and home runs. Vientos has never hit 280 in the big leagues. He's just not.
No, I think he's probably a 250 at best hitter, but I don't know. What's Baty hitting right around now? 220.
That's what I'm saying. If he were actually what he's supposed to be, he's hitting 230. But
okay.
There's enough glimmers in there that I keep talking myself into this. But Vientos' swing is so he has a giant swing.
Big swing,
very often looks like he doesn't adjust the pitches and he's just kind of swinging.
Oh yeah, it's like a caveman swinging out there a lot of times, and he's just. If you look at his percentile rankings and stuff like that, when he hits the ball, he hits it hard. It's a matter of he can't make contact.
That's the thing. You can talk yourself into it if you look at it long enough, because he also has been incredibly unlucky this year.
Yeah,
but he hits the ball really hard, and it's just that those balls aren't going out of the ballpark. It's great.
It's tough, and I need something better from him. If they're going to progress in any kind of way, they need something from that second half of that lineup, and that's Alvarez and Vientos primarily. They are going to be the there's two guys that we were counting on. They were oh wow, oh wow, you add Soto to all this, and you have Vientos and Alvarez also, and those guys can hit their weight.
Yeah, but and as bad as they've been, Tyrod Taylor is a black hole. Tyron Taylor. I always call him Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is a black hole.
Yes.
I know that the SNY guys are constantly talking about how he's a winning player and does something to win every day. That's great. He is legitimately he's not a big league hitter.
Solid fourth outfield, a guy who's good in a defensive replacement. And
I don't even know if he's a fourth outfielder.
Oh, he comes through in situations, and I think not with anything big, but he comes through with a single, and those are in clutch situations also. I think so. I think he has his moments. It's just a matter of there's a consistency thing that's not with him, and.
100 with zero power.
He has no extra base hit power. He's a guy who like you can leg his single into a double. He's got that kind of speed, but it's just nothing really that he's providing there. But
Yeah.
really great defensive player though.
And I've talked. I think I've talked to you about this before. I just don't believe that there aren't a bunch of guys in the minor leagues who are really good fielders who don't really like. You remember Matt Dendecker?
Yes.
Matt Dendecker was a great fielder.
Oh yeah, he was incredible.
He could easily be doing this. Like, at least if you could do that, if you're a great center fielder, at least you have that. And Taylor's fine, but he's not like he's not reminding me of wow, what's the name of the guy who won the Gold Glove in center field a while back?
Juan Lagares.
Yeah, Juan Lagares.
Yeah. He isn't. I mean, even Lagares had like his moment. I guess he's probably more Lagares than anything. But it's he is it's a position that they also need to improve upon. With whether that's. I don't know if that's Jose Siri coming back eventually at some point, or they go out and acquire someone else. I know we talked about Cedric Mullins, but I would prefer Cedric Mullins not come here. And a lot changed in like a month. Like I was like,
it just has to be something.
It has to be something.
This can't continue. Maybe Siri was terrible when he got hurt.
He was here, so he was very briefly. So like before he broke his leg. So like it was like the end of April, he's gone. So I don't know. We'll see. But I would hope to have something else in there besides that. Are there any areas where you feel the team still needs to improve?
I mean, the bullpen and starting pitching is a huge structural issue, I think. The bullpen more than the starters because they're going to get Senga and Manea back, which I think will help kind of steady that ship.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't trust a single reliever out there right now. And it fell, a long ways from where it was. There was a point where I was like, wow, this bullpen is really good. And what I'll point to is that something that I don't think a lot of people noticed at the time or really, really cared about because things were really good at the time. But AJ Minter getting hurt, I think was a really big deal.
That was the first domino. It was. Once they took him, and he was like the key to that bullpen. Like when everything was working well, because they would bring him in. He was like this, terrific left-handed late inning reliever who had plenty of that kind of experience going for him. And when he went down, and then you have like Danny Young go down, and then and now we have Jose Budo's out for a few days also with his illness. So like now you're running out of bullpen in bullpen games where they're strapped in terms of like help. That's crazy. Like today was like I was like who else are they gonna bring in here at this point? Like they had to keep guys out there.
I don't think David Stearns would ever admit this, but he's a guy who almost never spends money on relievers. He clearly views relievers as mostly fungible. He gets a whole basket of them and kind of flips them in and out during the season.
Yeah.
The one guy he spent money on was AJ Minter. Like he clearly viewed him as a proven guy to get to Diaz, which to me suggests that he didn't really trust Reed Garrett as an eighth inning guy.
No, I think we have enough of tape on Reed Garrett to know that he can be really good for like a month and a half, maybe even 2 months, and then it's going to kind of come off the wheels, and then he'll recover at some point, like a court around the season. I think maybe yesterday or Saturday was.
He was good yesterday.
It was a really gutsy effort from him to pitch 2 innings of relief like that against the Yankees. So I credit him for that. Maybe he's turning the corner, but yeah, he had clearly hit like a wall in terms of his ability. And this was like in 2024, it's the same thing where we were like marveling about Reed Garrett for the first 2 months of the season, and we were like, wow, this guy like really good, and then he just sucked for a solid like 2 months straight. And I would get like incredible agita just like for him coming in every time, and I was just like I can't deal with him anymore. So like him, like Brazoban,
him and Brazoban it's brutal. Like Brazoban comes in, it's like, is he gonna mow through the 3 guys, or is he gonna walk 4 out of 5 hitters? It's incredible.
There's flashes of both, and he's just like a guy you don't really know what he's going to be doing out there on a game by game basis. He was doing great again, like Garrett, like for the first 2 months of the season. Then just I don't know what happened. It all kind of hit everybody at the same time. Like everyone just like couldn't keep the ball in the ballpark anymore. That was their superpower, was that they were not giving up home runs. That the entire pitching staff, no home runs given up. And then in just from June 1st to June 30th, they gave up 1,000. It was insane.
Yeah, no, that was what was crazy, right? This stuff has all kind of been working under the surface for a while. It's just all of it regressed at exactly the same time, and the hitting sort of has been in this weird slump where the bottom of the order doesn't do anything. They don't string together rallies because of that, and the top four guys are almost never hot at the same time.
Yeah. This is like the closest they've gotten right now. Right now with Lindor, Alonso, and Soto all having a good series against the Yankees, and I was like, oh wow, this is what it looks like when they're all working together at the same time.
And Nimmo, don't forget Nimmo. Nimmo is on fire.
It's I was looking at the grand slam totals for him. I was like, how many grand slams does he get? This is all he does.
We're sitting here Brandon Nimmo is gonna hit 30 home runs this year, maybe. It's just crazy considering where he was 5 years ago.
The way he changed up his game, where we used to marvel. We were like, this guy can just get on base forever. He's just he'll walk.
Yeah, he stopped.
Just stop doing it. He's like a 330, 320, 320s in the on base percentage. And I was like, what happened to him? What happened? He completely changed it up. That he's just like, oh yeah, no, I'm just gonna hit home runs.
He said something really interesting recently, which I read. That, and I think it's kind of a window into their organizational thinking. He said basically, it's really hard to get hits in the major leagues. The ones you do get, you want to do damage.
Yeah.
Which I think is an organizational philosophy towards, more of a power-oriented approach. We want you guys to be patient, but when you swing, do damage. Don't hit singles.
Yeah. I also think you can't have him and Soto both drawing. Nothing will get done. Nothing's gonna. No one's gonna produce anything. If both those guys are just looking to get on base at all times, no runs will ever be driven in ever. And it'll be perpetually just oh yeah, 2 men on, nothing happening. So I think between him and Soto, I would prefer Soto being the one that's getting on base, but if you're going to change it up in this way, I mean, I think Soto's doing great right now, but they really need Soto to be this sort of engine for them right now, at the 3-hole kind of producing for them every day, because it's been kind of hit or miss with Lindor lately, and then Alonso's been Alonso. He's been really consistent the entire year, but he hits his moments of just slowing down. So it's
Soto, and look, Soto's really, really, really good, right? We're seeing the real Juan Soto now. He's he's probably the best hitter I've ever watched.
It's crazy, yeah.
But he is also weirdly passive in some moments. He's not going to go out of the strike zone for any reason. Unless you're willing to throw him a strike, you can make him walk.
Yeah, and I think there are situations where they're going to be no, yeah, you can walk right now. We know you want to walk. We'll just walk you here. We're not going to pitch really anything to you, and that's probably where where you want to be a little bit more aggressive in these cases, because I think teams can sense it when he's being Soto. He's just being passive, and he doesn't want to be overly aggressive at the plate, because I think he just doesn't want to make out. But there are times in the season where I need Mendoza to kind of kick him in the ass and be okay, you need to we don't need to walk here. We need an extra base hit, a double home run, whatever we need here. We don't need you on base. We need you to drive.
You say that. Do you think there's any chance Mendoza is saying that?
Well, that's a good segue right into my next question, which was how would you evaluate the managerial decisions of Mendoza this year?
I like Mendoza. I do. I think he's a good manager. He is. I said this to you. It says something to me that in 2 consecutive seasons there's been a very long losing streak that he clearly had no power to get the team out of. He's not a vocal guy. I don't think. I think, he doesn't necessarily need to be. It's a pretty veteran team. He's got, guys who've been here a long time.
I think he relies on Lindor to be sort of the leader in these cases, and Alonso, but I think he has a good feel for the pulse of the team.
Yeah.
That being said, I said this to you. Like I think he's a little too patient at times, where he's just like, nah, well they'll figure it out, and like he's a little like Aaron Boone in that way, where I'm like this is why Yankee fans hate Aaron Boone with passion,
Yeah.
which is that they're like, can you do something? Like, can you make them be a little bit more accountable? And in those ways, I get the frustration. So I think he has a good feel for the team, but I would prefer him to make changes like the change up of moving Lindor to the number 2 hole, which has worked so far pretty well.
Yeah.
That was good.
To his credit, he has moved around the lineup a lot.
Yeah.
He hasn't gotten stuck in one thing. And moving Lindor out of leadoff, where he had an incredible run of success, was a really, I credit him for doing that. And he's clearly been trying to figure. He knows the bottom of the lineup is the problem. He's been trying to figure out ways to lengthen the lineup. He's been like playing with having McNeil batting 7th a lot, like to try to get something down there.
Yeah.
But just on Mendoza, I think players like him because he treats them like adults, right? Like he says, look, you have a job to. This is a job. You have a job to do. Get the job done. The problem is, he doesn't. He's almost not cynical enough in some spots for me. Like he's gotten burnt a few times when relievers haven't gotten the job done, and he hasn't had somebody ready as a backup plan. Yeah. And I read that as, he just expects people to get their jobs done. But, look, he's a second-year manager. He has a good feel for the pulse of the team. I think you're absolutely right about that. I like him, and a lot of the criticism of him is, fairly not right, I think.
Yeah, he has his strategic blunders at times, and I think it's definitely his bullpen use. I think he uses relievers correctly. It's just a matter of not hooking people out at the appropriate time, where he's just, again, like, very trusting. He's like, no, like they'll figure it out. He's going to get these guys out, and then it's a situation where you can tell, like, from either body language or just like, we've been watching this team for a long time. We know how this thing's going to go. Where whoever it is, Jose Budo, Huascar Brazaban, Max Kranick, whoever's out there, they've been left in too long. They've been left in a batter too late, and then the next batter is going to demolish them. And it is one of the more frustrating things with Mendoza that I think we would agree. Like he should know better at this point. Even as a second-year manager, I think you know your team well enough at this point to be like, okay, yeah, he's not going to be able to get out of this. Get someone warmed up also.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I like Mendoza. I think he's done a good job. He deserves a ton of credit for last year, and he's more or less done a good job this year too. It's not like I'm clamoring for somebody else. There are small things that bother me,
yeah.
But overall, like I prefer him substantially to Buck Showalter, who drove me crazy.
Yeah, I remember you hating Showalter with a passion. By the end of 23, you're like, time for him to go. Yeah, let's put him out the pasture. What do you think are like this team's like realistic expectations long term for this season anyway? Let's say that. Like, where do you see this team finishing?
I mean, realistically, this team has to at least feel that they're a World Series contender. There's nobody in the National League who I think is, like, oh, there's no way we can beat them in a series. The Dodgers, felt a little bit like that last year, and the Dodgers were better last year.
Yeah, not so much this season. Their pitching is not there like it was last year.
And for whatever, the one thing that I think does limit the Mets' ceiling a little bit is the lack of any kind of actual ace. There's no starting pitcher we have that scares anybody, really.
No, no. I think we have effective pitchers. I think in terms of not having an ace, I think we have at least like 2 good number 2s. Like Senga and Peterson are 2 strong like 2s. Neither of them are an ace, but you can kind of get by with 2 strong 2s at the top of your rotation.
I don't know. Peterson scares the crap out of me still.
Really, still.
Now the fact that he's not striking anyone out is weird. Like, there's always something weird with him. He's not striking anybody out. He's getting, like, ground ball after ground ball. And I don't think he was ever one of these, like, crazy sinker balling types. He's
changed it. Like, he's kind of changed his approach in that, like, I was looking at, like, the rates of the ground ball rates for the staff, and By far, it was Canning when he was still pitching, but also Holmes and then Peterson. The three of them would just drop. It was just sinker ball, sinker ball, sinker ball. Put the ball on the ground, make sure that it was going anywhere, which was very effective for them at the earlier part of the season, and why they were doing so well. I think what he does, I think he has really good stuff. I think Pearson has really good stuff, and he's developed now the confidence to be not really an ace, but like a sort of a de facto sort of like piece of that rotation where they can kind of rely on him. But I mean, he's had like three great starts in like big situations, like the game he pitched against the Dodgers, and then the complete game shutout that he threw against the Nationals, which wasn't like a big game situation, but it was still something where guy threw a complete game shutout, nothing to sneeze at. So
yeah, but he also fell apart against the Pirates, and I don't remember who the other one was. Right in the middle of that stretch, though, where they really needed him to throw a good start, he got hit twice in a row.
Yeah, it was
Phillies. It was the Phillies.
It was the Phillies game. Yeah, that was a situation. But at the same time, everyone was imploding. So I feel like it was just kind of like every because of that, no one really picked up on it as much. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm interested to see how the second half of the season goes for him, and if he can continue his run of success. But I believe in Pearson more than I did at the beginning, like before the season started. I thought things were going to go terribly for him because he just has that habit, that inconsistency streak in him. But I'm pleasantly surprised at how good he's been this year. Like a borderline all-star pitcher at times. And
it's true. The numbers are what they are. They're good, and for an entire basically season worth of starts, going through from mid-season last year to mid-season this year, he's been, I think he's like 15-5 with an ERA under 3. Like, he's been a really, really good pitcher. I get all that. He just scared me.
Yeah, there are times where he can just implode, and I think that's something that's gone with him his entire career. Not to the level of like Tyler McGill, but he's not like
very few people have the Tyler McGill I'm pulling the ripcord and getting out of this one, guys. Get me out of the game.
I've never seen anybody like that, like where he's like I don't have it. It's the second batter of the game. He's like, I don't have it.
It's like Tyler McGill is like, no, it'll be fine. He'll pitch like four no-hit innings, then the fifth inning will be like, oh, Tyler actually has nothing. Better get him out of the game.
Second time through the lineup, like, oh, actually, it turns out he didn't have anything at the beginning either. So. I don't know. Jeez, I'm not looking forward to him coming back. And if he does come back, I don't know in what capacity. I'm not really sure, but I would prefer if they just traded him away. Honestly, what do you think the Mets should prioritize in terms of adding talent at the trade deadline, and for who?
I think relief. I like this Mitch Keller thing that's floating around. Yeah. If you could make that a little bigger and combine it with Daniel Bednar or Santana, the other reliever they have, there's some solid pieces on the Pirates that I'd like to get. Finnegan from the Nationals, I wouldn't mind. They just need probably 2 pretty decent relievers, which sucks because you're going to have to pay significantly for relievers, and that's never fun. But the other thing is, like, at some point, I've said this to you in the past too, it feels a little bit like the Knicks a couple years ago, where there's just too many guys vying for minutes, and there's too many guys here who play similar positions. They have to pull off a consolidation trade at some point.
Yeah,
I don't think this is the time to do it, but like, it wouldn't shock me if Mauricio goes out, or hopefully Acuna goes out. Somebody like that goes to bring in, a little bit of a better starter, and they have prospects to trade.
Oh yeah, their farm system's actually pretty ripe right now. They have a good group of talent that's been flourishing this year much more than last year. Last year was it seemed like every top prospect was underperforming, but this year they have a lot of people that are doing really well, and I think it'll take somebody dynamic to kind of get it done, like an Acuna or like a Mauricio, or at least the appearance of like dynamism, like there has to be something that looks appealing to another team. I would look. I've been looking over at Aroldis Chapman and thinking of him as a potential left-handed late inning piece. as a setup man
Yeah.
to Diaz would be pretty appealing in my view.
I don't trust that guy either. But
So
at the end of the
having the
day,
best
like,
season of
how
his
bad could he really be?
he's
He's,
having the best season he's had in like 10 years. Like he's been doing really well, and pitching in Fenway, not easy to do.
So yeah, I would, to answer your question, I would prioritize relief pitching. I think that's probably the lineup does worry me, but I kind of think that they're going to have to just hopefully internally address that. And it's going to be, either Vientos gets going or Beatty gets going or somebody gives them some length, or maybe more likely Alvarez comes back and gives them some offensive output out of the catcher spot.
Yeah, it would be good for them to be getting something from him. And I flow this earlier in the season, which was maybe a position switch would benefit Alvarez, because I feel like he's just getting the hell beat out of him back there behind the plate, and I think he's a solid defensive catcher, but maybe right hand batting, maybe DH would be a better option for him to keep him in the lineup and keep him healthier.
The question for me, always with catchers is this guy a good hitter, full stop, or is he a good hitter for a catcher, right?
Yeah.
Alvarez, I think, has the chance to be just an actual good hitter who you could DH. I also think there's a non-zero chance that Alvarez's ceiling is, a guy who hits 245 with, 28 home runs, which, as from a DH, is, kind of something you can find in a few places. From a catcher, is really, really, really valuable.
It's an important part to it, and I think his you can see the differences between him and Torrens, and I like Torrens a lot, but Torrens is not an everyday starting catcher. He's a really good backup, and I think maybe the best backup they've had in a year. I can't think of a better backup that they've had. Maybe going back to like Todd Pratt, but a really good backup catcher and really good defensive player, but not a guy who you can count on offensively. And he's another guy who's just been a black hole for them offensively, and they're in the bottom of that lineup. It's just really bad.
Yeah, I think there was a thought that Torrens was actually a much better hitter than he is. He's kind of reverted to being pretty much a backup catcher, which is fine. He's a really good defensive backup catcher, so
yeah.
You'll live with it.
In terms of the farm system, who do you see? Who do you think is the most in terms of in terms of talent? Who are you most excited to see make an impact in the future, near future, maybe even this season?
This season or in the future? Because I think it's a different answer.
Okay, well then, in the future then.
In the future, I think the guy I'm most excited about in the system is Jonah Tong.
Yeah.
I don't have any idea what to make of that guy. He has one of the weirdest motions I've ever seen, but he's putting up ridiculous numbers in Double-A. He's basically unhittable.
Yeah.
He shouldn't even be in Double-A anymore, but he was a guy who wasn't that high of a draft pick. And the stuff went from kind of fringy to very premium now. I think he's throwing 97 to 99 with a big time curveball and changeup.
Yeah.
So he's the guy I'm most interested in, because I think he has the highest ceiling. In terms of this year, I've sort of given up on Drew Gilbert, but he's been a little better lately. He maybe could give them something and could play center field fairly passively. Their main guys are not really, Mauricio's up already. Acuna, Sprague, I don't think is ready.
Given his struggles in AAA, I would say probably Sprout's not coming up this year.
He's been a lot better recently, though.
He's been looking a little bit better. I don't know what he's been doing, but he's the strikeout rate really down for him, and this entire year. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with him. I think Nolan McLean has got a lot of ability. He's just really. It's astounding how quickly he jettisoned up the farm system rankings, and he looks like a legitimate top tier starting pitcher if they can ever get him in here. So I don't know. Stearns seemed very reticent when they floated the idea of rather than throwing another bullpen game for this series, for Game 3 of the series, and maybe go for a potential sweep. maybe bring up one of your prospects, and he was like, yeah, no, I'm not really interested in doing that in any kind of way. So I do you think we'll see like McLean or Sprout at any point this season, or do you think that's just a non-starter with Stearns?
It seems like he won't spot start them, and he probably has enough depth, either now or what he'll get at the trade deadline to keep them in, a 5-6 man rotation. That's my thought. I would love to see Sprout come up as a reliever. Not too long ago, that was kind of the way that guys broke into major league rotations, right? They pitched out of the bullpen. Just looking at the Mets, like, I mean, Sid Fernandez did that for years in the 80s Mets. He was a really, really good starting pitcher, and he pitched out of the bullpen because they just didn't have a spot for him. Yeah. I'd like to see Sprout come up and, get show some confidence in his arsenal that he can get out major league hitters. That might be a good pivot point. I don't know what else he has to really prove. It's more, I don't really understand the AAA environment. It seems like guys go up there and get shellacked. So I would kind of like everyone to stay in AAA for as little time as possible.
Yeah, that seems like it would be more beneficial. The exception being McLean, who's like the only guy I've ever seen like who's gone from AA, doing well in AA, and doing well in AAA. I've never seen anybody do that in any kind of way, so that's why I feel very excited about McLean.
Andrew, you know what, Mike? Let me flip flop what I just said. I'd rather see McLean come up and pitch out of the bullpen than Sprout.
Okay.
Because McLean, I don't know if you've watched him. Everything about him looks like a reliever, except
you mean the way he pitches out of the stretch.
That, and he's basically a fastball slider pitcher, and he looks like there's like 5 or 10 guys pitching in high level situations in the big leagues that have stuff that looks like him, like a crazy frisbee slider.
The slider is insane, like fastball, really, really good slider.
He also can't get lefties. Like they're waiting to see him get lefties out consistently. That's the other issue.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that goes for them. But I would feel good about that potentially being a situation where they would bring him in and be like, okay, like you're going to pitch the 6th inning for now on, McLean. They could use some help in the middle relief situations, and he might be the guy. I don't know. Maybe it'll be Tyler McGill. Who knows? And then let me see. I know you guys. I know you can't stay on here forever, so I'll try to wrap up this.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Go for it. What's been your most memorable moment of the season for you personally this season?
This Yankees series was pretty good. I enjoyed this series a lot. Before that, the sweep of the Phillies at home at Citi Field, that was a good moment as well. There was a stretch when they won. I think it was like 6 or 8 games in a row when they swept the Cardinals and then Phillies consecutively. They went perfect on the homestand. I think that was probably it for me. What was it for you?
I think, and this is like very different for me because when I go to games, it's usually the opposite of like good experiences. It's usually them getting shelled for. It happens so often that like I would go with friends and they'd be like, okay, so they're going to lose this game, right? And when this season I went to 2 games and they were absolute like holy shit that happened moments, which was the walk-off against the Phillies to continue that winning streak, and that was I think that was the rubber game, might have been the 3rd game of that series that they won at home against the Phillies in April, and that walk-off was great. I think probably the Peterson complete game shutout was the highlight for me personally. Just watching that and like being able to watch that in person, and then also seeing Nimmo hit 2 home runs, Soto hit a home run. They were doing that game was in the middle of their probably the best stretch of the season for them, where they looked like an absolute like juggernaut, where everybody was hitting and the pitching looked great and everything was going so well. And then it was very shortly after that everything kind of went off the wheels. Just
everything in baseball is momentum. It's so great. It's like do you remember Mike Tyson's Punch Out?
Yes.
You know, like when your guy would get tired, he'd turn pink, and then if you could dodge one of your opponent's punches, he immediately sprang back to life and just like peppered the guy with punches. That's what it feels like the league did to the Mets, basically. Like they had them on the ropes, and the Mets missed. That miss was the blown game against the Rays, and then everything fell apart.
Yeah, and then I think that Milwaukee series, that was kind of like the opposite of it, where Mets were able to dodge what could have been like a knockout blow for them at that point, where it looked like that was like the lowest point of the season. Losing that first game, they won the next two, and then two more against the Yankees, and now, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, it looks like they're back. Looks like they've kind of found something. I don't know what exactly. It depends on what the pitching in the series was not great.
Yes,
but
it's the pitching, right? Like, I think there's an expression like momentum is only as good as the next day's starter or something like that. And frankly, right now, it's a little bit of like wait out the clock until we get Senga and Manaea back, because, I would say who are our 5 starters right now? It's Peterson,
Holmes,
and what?
Montas.
Okay.
The Paul Blackburn's not there anymore, so
He's hurt.
Paul Blackburn's hurt, and then I guess it's Blade Tidwell.
I don't. Did they send him back down? I don't remember.
I can't keep track of like who they're sitting down anymore. It's like every day they're like, okay, just send that guy out here and throw that.
I'm just happy to have a couple days without. There was a point where it was like 5 consecutive days, I think, where somebody got hurt, and I kept like opening Twitter and seeing like, oh, so and so has this whatever injury is being moved to the DL, and it's like, okay. The Blackburn one was like that
was like a real like even though Blackburn was doing terrible, I was like, they need somebody out there. Like, they can't just keep doing like bullpen games, right? Like,
also, Budo getting backdated on the DL to July 1st. He's on the DL until July 15th with an undisclosed illness. I have no idea what that means.
I don't know what that means. Yeah, I was like, are they doing something for him with him right now? Like, what's happening? Like, it was a very strange thing. Like, that news alert. They're like, he's gonna be sick for 2 weeks. What does that mean? Like,
I don't know if it was. I don't know what's going on. I assume that they felt they couldn't carry him. Like, they didn't know when he would get better quick enough, and they just could not carry him if he couldn't pitch at the time, and so they had to DL him. But that felt like a roster crunch and like a really weird.
It's a risky one. Also, MLB doesn't like that. If they're like, he has to actually be sick. Like, make sure he's coughing if they show up for him. Like, so I don't know what exactly is wrong with him. Hopefully nothing serious, nothing that would actually warrant 2 weeks on the IL. I think maybe this is more of just like, well, it's a precaution. We're just gonna keep him out for the entire IL 15-day stretch. But I think with Manaea coming back, his return's like they're expecting him back if he doesn't hurt himself somehow. He should be back this week.
Don't even say that.
Yeah, like, knock on wood right now. I was saying when I saw Dad last time that I was like, so Manaea should be back next week, unless like he somehow like bends over and like hurts himself again. Then we should be okay. But I was like, I said that and I was like, there's a good chance that might happen. So let me knock on wood again, just to make sure that doesn't happen. But they really need him in there just as a body. And the news that Senga
pitch well.
Well, yeah, even that, but like, I'm not expecting him to pitch like amazing, right? Like, as soon as he comes back, I'm like, okay, well, he's gonna be throwing like 5 innings, probably a little bit of rust here and there, like, even with all the rehab games, he's it was a lengthy stretch.
You gotta understand, part of their pitching right now is based on Clay Holmes is arguably our best starter, who's never pitched an entire season as a starter. So you have to figure at some point he's going to fall off. You've got Kodai Senga, who might be the most insane person on the planet. Like, if he comes back and decides like he doesn't like his mechanics, he might just go back to Japan.
I don't think that's going to happen, but
I'm joking, obviously. But he's clearly a very cerebral pitcher. He doesn't feel right. He doesn't pitch right.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Like, he's basically either on a roll and in a great groove, or he's terrible. So, that because his stuff is so dependent on his feel for the forkball, right? And he pitches, all of his success is based on that.
Yeah.
So, we're basically relying on him, Peterson, who I spoke about a little bit, my feelings about Peterson,
right?
And that's it. So, I need Manaea back and good.
Yeah, I think he'll be. I think he will once he's like officially back into it, like he'll be good. I think expecting him to be like back immediately and be pitching well is probably unlikely, but I would say that he'll be a good piece for them later on. I was very excited that they announced that Senga will be, barring any problems, back by the Kansas City series is when he's expected to return coming up. So that's really good news if that's actually going to happen. So I'm looking forward to
my point. It felt like that rehab could have been turned into like 2 months, right?
If the hamstring had not, particularly with a hamstring strain, like anything could happen. It could have like been aggravated somehow through any kind of, really anything. So those things can really go from like a 2-week injury to a 2-month injury very quickly, and that's what happened to Senga last time also. So
yep.
We like dodged an enormous bullet by him not being out for this long, but we'll say it's a matter of.
I think that's why they need to pick up a starter. Like, it may seem like they have enough bodies, but it very quickly could turn into not a very strong rotation going down the stretch.
Yeah, and even though we despise him and everything he stands for, like McGill is also somebody that he is they could throw him in as a spot start at the very least. So I would say they probably have theoretically 6 pitchers. They probably need another one in that regard. They probably need at least one other pitcher who we can kind of count on, and it doesn't need to be an ace. It can be a Mitch Keller. It can be whoever. I don't care really at this point. It could be like Walker Buehler. They could throw anybody in there who I have like a semblance of confidence in. Then I would be happy about. And if they could stay healthy, I'd be even more happy about that. But the issue has just been health across the board. Everyone somehow got hurt at the same time. So if everyone can stay healthy for 2 freaking weeks, that would be ecstatic.
Yeah, I mean, this feels a little bit like the Dodgers last year, where the Dodgers just could not keep a pitcher healthy. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying, hopefully, there's some stabilization coming soon, because right now, it feels like they're about to get on a roll, but, if they implode pitching-wise in the next 3 games, it's very quickly going to not be that.
No, there's a good chance it's not going to be like that either. Going off that, because pitching is kind of the nucleus of a good championship team, what do you see the team's championship window over the next few years?
I mean, I think it's wide open, and that was kind of, an intentional move. Like Soto is playing this season as a 26-year-old, which is just wild to think about. Like, he hasn't even hit what most people consider to be peak, his peak. So you've got him to count on for the next, handful of years. Lindor also is, I think Lindor's 30 this year. Like, he's not old. And, if they re-sign Alonso, he's kind of the same thing. So they have, the next 3 years at least, even if you're not able to cultivate another hitter from somewhere.
The Vlad Guerrero thing really kind of screwed them in that way. I wasn't expecting Guerrero to re-sign with the Blue Jays, of all things. So
I don't think they were ever really going after Vlad Guerrero.
Really?
Why wouldn't you just re-sign Alonso?
They didn't. They signed him to effectively a 1-year deal. Like, he's going to opt out after this year, and he's going to cash in nicely, I should say.
But I think that was more him than them. I think Alonso wanted. I don't think there was any way he was going to take a bargain basement 3-year deal at that point.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was more of a take a 1-year deal effectively and see how you progress this season. I'm very happy that he's doing really well, but
we beat him in the negotiation. Both sides played chicken.
Well, it would be hard. It would be hard to do a negotiation.
Trying to do it again this year. He's coming off a much better year. He's also a year older.
Much better.
He's just never going to get what he thinks he's going to get.
Well, I think he should fire Boris, but that's probably never going to happen. But I don't know. I don't know who thought Pete Alonso is going to get a multi-year deal. No one's going to give Pete Alonso a multi-year deal.
No, somebody will give him 3 years. Somebody will give him maybe 4.
They didn't give him this year.
He's just not going to get Freddie Freeman's contract, and that's what he thinks he's going to be. It's not going to happen. Freeman was always a much better player, and even if he wasn't really as good as people may have thought he was a better regarded player, right? Like people think Freddie Freeman's really, really good. Even he is good, but even if he weren't,
yeah, I think his target should have always been like I'm not Freddie Freeman, but I'm probably Matt Olson or better than Matt Olson, like which was I'm probably a more realistic like contract target for him, and even that even if it wasn't going to be like a long term contract, that was probably something that he should have like set his sights on. That would have been a much more feasible move for most teams to be like, okay, yeah, like we can probably give you a 2-year deal, maybe even 3, at $25 million a year. Even that, like he couldn't, like they couldn't figure that thing out either. So I think he'll go for that this year. Going into free agency after the season, like
I
that's
think we'll
got to be a year.
wrap him up for like 4 years, $27 million per, something like that. Maybe that's high even. What's he making this year? Isn't it
making 30 million, 30, like so.
Okay, so maybe it's at 30. Figure he doesn't want to take a per year reduction, but he's also not going to get as many years as he thinks he's going to get. So he's going to have to do what a lot of people do, which is he's going to get a contract he doesn't like, which takes him into his mid-30s, and he's going to have to decide, when he's in his mid-30s, if he's still productive or if he's going to retire.
He has a skill set that at least it's players get like their bat speed slows down in their 30s, but like there's something with his power that especially if he has finally figured out like, oh yeah, if I go to the opposite field, I can be a lot more productive instead of just pulling the ball every time. If he's finally figured that part out for himself, then he should age not gracefully but nicely into his mid-30s. So I think if he signs a 3-year deal, then let's say he signs for like 3 years, $90 million in the offseason. Would you think that was a good move for them?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I want them to keep Pete. I think he's an important part of this team, and it's I think underrated how important he is as a Met. Like he's never been beloved the way David Wright was, but he's going to have most of the Mets offensive records. If he stays for a 3-year contract, he's going to have all of the Mets offensive records. He's going to break the home run record this year. So he's gotten. I think people still think of him as like a relatively young player. He's not. He's been with the Mets for 6 years now, and he's been productive for all 6 years. It's just his personality is like he's not a bad guy. He's just immature, and the immaturity I think makes it hard for some people to take him seriously.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to phrase it. That's them figuring out the Alonso thing is going to be interesting, and keeping him a part of it with Soto, with Lindor, with I guess McNeil. But they have to really figure out the rest of this for the next few years, because there are players who have not developed in the way that they thought they were. Like Nimmo will be there for however long his contract is, which is just an interminably long contract for a player like Nimmo. But they'll have him at least also, and then they have to figure out what they're going to do with third base, which is just this revolving door of musical chairs. Everybody, like one player in, one player off, one player in, one player out. Like it's just constantly revolving around those 3 guys like Mauricio, Beatty, and Vientos. And at some point, they got to like stop the chair. Like someone's going to stop the music, and someone's going to actually have to like play that position.
Like it can't be, in 3 years we're still talking about Vientos and Beatty. Like that's what I'm saying. I think the biggest thing is how they figure out that whole conundrum, because either you have to make the right move, which is to pick one of these guys, or maybe multiple of them if you really think they're going to succeed, or you have to trade them now while they have value, while they're still while they still have that prospect sheen on them. Because like if Mauricio comes up, plays a full year, and it's clear that this dude is never going to hit for anything other than power in the big leagues, he becomes a lot less valuable.
Yeah, I think the sheen is kind of and he's coming off an ACL injury. There's a lot of things that like they got to do very quickly with Mauricio if they want to figure him out. And I think they don't know exactly what he can do at a major league level, because even with the playing time he's been seeing,
he's still sort of tantalizing, right? Like he still has crazy power.
I mean, he came back. The double he hit yesterday, where
he can still steal bases.
Yeah,
like Keith Law has said this for years. Keith Law who is a very tough prospect evaluator, has said basically like there's a non-zero chance that Ronnie Mauricio is Alfonso Soriano.
I think that's kind. I don't think he'll ever develop in that same way. But I there's something about tall, like athletic shortstops, whether it's Ellie De La Cruz or O'Neal
O'Neal Cruz.
Cruz. What was that?
O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah, or Ellie De La Rosa. Those two guys are people look at them and they're like, wow, look at the power, look at the speed, it doesn't matter that they bat like in the low 200s most of the time, but
Yeah.
they have a tangible skill that people get excited about. So Mauricio, who's not is not as good as either of those two guys, they could package him with maybe a more interesting prospect, maybe a pitching prospect, and trade him off to a team that would be. I don't. I don't know what the Red Sox long-term plans are. Given that they just trade Devers, but I don't know if they would ever part with Jared Duran. But that would
that package is a lot more than Mauricio.
Yeah, no, but Mauricio would have to be part of it, and then probably I don't know. I don't know if it would be Spro, but it would have to be somebody like pretty interesting for them. They want pitching and they want hitting, so it would probably be like Mauricio and like two other prospects to get Duran. But I like Duran.
I don't know if it's Mauricio. I think that conversation starts with Jed Williams.
I don't want to
Jared Duran was, by some measures, the best player in the American League last year. He had like an 8 WAR. Like, it's ridiculous.
In another year, he might have won MVP, but like he was the same year as Bobby Witt and Aaron Judge. So he kind of like he was displaced by both of those guys, but he had a great year.
He's not playing it this way this year. And he's had some kind of documented mental health issues, which usually scare people away. But he's a really good player. He just will not be cheap.
No, it would take a lot to get him, and I don't know if I want to mortgage the future. I will say, in terms of their positional prospects for the future, and someone who I hope pans out, and I could see panning out because he's very talented. It is Jet Williams. It's somebody who I could see them putting into second base, or maybe even potentially center field if they have to go that route. But Jet looks like the real deal. And not just because he has a cool name, but also because he's actually hitting and hitting well, and looking very much like the prospect who they drafted like 3 years ago. They viewed him as the guy who's going to be a long-term piece, and I think he could be a long-term piece and could be a valuable piece of a championship team.
Yeah, I like Jet Williams a lot too. I mean, he's got a really good combination of power and patience. Like, most guys don't walk at the rate he does. He's a really patient hitter, and that's hard. One of the things that's hard to teach. So, really excited about it. I think I'm excited about him and Carson Benji. I think those are the two that really move the needle for me. The rest of the positional prospects are sort of like Ryan Clifford. I kind of like Ryan Clifford, but he's also batting 235 in Double-A.
Yes. Generally, the consensus of a lot of these guys, and then. There's a lot of like raw tools guys who are very far away from being anywhere near the major league level. So we'll see how those guys go. But yeah, I think Williams and Benj are probably long-term pieces, and as well as Tong, McLean, and Sproat. But one of those guys could go in a package, and I would be willing to part with them, except for Williams. I think Williams is legit.
I wouldn't trade Tong. I would trade Sproat. I would trade kind of anyone else. There's a guy at Double-A named, I always forget his first name, I think it's Jack Wenninger. He's had a really nice year too. But there's a lot of pitching depth up and down the organization right now. A lot of guys having really nice years. So there's depth to trade with. This offseason, this trade deadline, I think they're going to trade from depth. In the offseason, I think there's going to be a bigger move to consolidate, this Vientos, Baby, Acuna, glut of guys who play the same position, because they have to figure this out now.
Yeah, I agree. All right. I think that was really great. I anticipated that we were only going to speak for like half an hour, and we spoke for almost an hour. So that was a really great hour of talk about the Mets, and I really appreciate you coming on and taking time, because I know you're busy and you got the kids and everything else going on at home. So Thanks
No,
for
it's awesome.
that. It was really great. I would like to do this again at
For
some
sure.
point, and hopefully we can make it like a semi regular thing.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'd love that. Thank you so much for having me on, Mike.
All right. Thanks a lot, Matt. Have a great night, and let's hope for good things happening for the Mets for the next couple weeks.
I needed to keep me sane.
All right. Have a good one. Bye. Thank you for listening to Mike's Mets podcast. If you haven't already, please follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a like and a comment, it helps so much. Finally, please follow our Twitter and Blue Sky pages. You can find us at Twitter at Mike's Mets Pod, all one word, and on Blue Sky at Mike's Mets Podcast.bsky.social. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day or evening, and let's go Mets.